Hey everybody. So I thought I'd do a little something on the new skill tree that came out this past Tuesday, the 16th of May, 2017, in Mechwarrior Online. So yeah, let's get into this. Many of you have found, oh my God, I started up the client. I've got this huge ledger thing, yada yada yada. Um, First time I've logged in a while, etc., etc. A lot of people have, had this. So going into the mech lab, loading, loading, loading. Something from the most recent event. Yay, account injections. Smiths. There we go. Okay, so a lot of people first thought there's going to be a ledger showing like all the refunds that you got for your previous skills and modules and whatnot. And it's going to be weird and confusing. And for the most part, don't worry about it. You're going to have a crap ton of C-bills. Don't burn through them thinking to yourself, oh, I've got all these C-bills now. I can buy a crap ton of new mechs. Hold off on that. Um, while you may not have a problem with that idea, just keep in mind a few things. Is that some of the things that you do in the new skill tree are going to cost you C-bills. Sometimes it's going to be a little, sometimes it's going to be a lot. Not a big deal. So yeah, this is my Firestarter A. I'm not going to go into this right now. I've already skilled it out. Let me find a mech that I haven't. Let's look at a mech that I haven't really skilled out yet. And these are just my inner sphere heavies. So Incy Meensy Mindsy Mo. Which one is it? I don't know. Let's keep this relatively conservative, and let's go with my Marauder 5M. Because it's a fairly conservative build. Now, when I say it's a fairly conservative build, I mean, you look at this. I've got 3 jump jets, 4 medium lasers, an AC-20, 4 tons of ammo, a standard 325 engine, 3 extra heat sinks, endo steel, ferrofibrous armor. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing fancy, but it works. It is, however, of course, very short range focused. Now you look at what it's got for armor numbers: 18, 80, 12, 54, 10, 48, 57 out of 64 on the legs. We even have the structure numbers in there now, which is nice to have. But now, you might note, looking at the top, the skills tab isn't there anymore. It's been moved into the mech lab because the skills are now specific to each iteration of the mech. That is to say, if I had 2 Marauder 5Ms, they would earn skills separately. This is very important. And I'll show you that a little on that later. But in the meantime, let me just go into the skills on this thing. Now, I have not skilled this mech. I mean, it's got XP and whatnot left over from the change, but now here we have the trees. The skill tree is the same on each mech. The numbers might vary a little bit differently, especially on like the survival tree. But for the most part, each thing is the same in the same location. It's just the value that changes a little bit. So, for example, under the weapons tree, we have range, which benefits all of your weapons. Cooldown, which benefits all of your weapons. For example, each cooldown is takes 0.75% off of your weapon's cooldown, and that's across the board. That is how long it takes the weapon to recycle once it's been fired. Range Each one is an extra 1%. Velocity applies to autocannons, gauze rifles, and PPCs. And and missiles. It's a straight velocity bump. Nothing big. High explosive is a missile-specific skill. It increases the chance for a missile that hits structure to do critical hit, to perform a critical hit. That is to do damage to a mounted piece of equipment, which is nice. Missile spread tightens your missile spread a little bit. The missile rack skill, there's only 2 of them on the tree, here and here. Just like there's only 2 missile high explosives, one here and one down here, and 2 spreads here and here. What Missile Rack is a nice skill because it gives you a bump to the amount of ammunition you get per ton, the amount of rockets you get per ton of ammo, which is really nice. That's some good stuff. Then you have laser duration, which shortens the beam time, how long your lasers burn for. Basically, the lower your laser duration, the easier it is for you to get damage into one spot. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 appearances of it on the tree. Then as you move over to this side of the tree, it's interesting because lasers are focused more or less, down, as you can see, mostly down the middle so that you can do ballistics and lasers or missiles and lasers without a lot of problems. It's actually going to not be very skill point intensive to max out your weapon skills this way. On the other hand, if you're doing ballistics and missiles, you're going to have to figure out how you want to split it. And I'll be perfectly frank, the high explosive I don't really think is a big deal. Maybe my evaluation on that is flawed. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in the future. We'll see. But in the meantime, missile spread and missile rack are your 2 big ones because extra ammo and tighter missile clusters. It's good stuff. The ballistic skills, you have gauze charge, which there's 2 iterations of it here and here. This increases the amount of time your gauze rifle can hold a charge. So once you charge it up, you can hold it a little bit longer, waiting for that perfect shot. LBX spread, which tightens the spread on your LBX cannons. There's 2 occurrences of that there and there. Ultra auto cannon jam chance reduction. There's one there, one there. Self-explanatory. And there's also magazine capacity. One there and one there, which increases the number of shots per ton you got. And you also have heat generation, which lowers the amount of heat your weapons put out. These are actually really important, in my opinion, probably more important than the old cool run skills. That's my evaluation so far. Mostly because you can pick a lot of these up incidentally, and a lot faster and easier than you can the cool run skills. But let me get to the survival tree next. Reinforced chassis. There's multiple. I'm sorry, this is reinforced casing, my bad. What this does is it reduces the chances of you taking critical hits. Shock absorbance reduces the amount of damage you take to your legs from falling. AMS overload, there's 2 iterations of that on the skill tree, one there and one there. Basically, it makes your AMS fire, your anti-missile system, fire faster, and therefore makes it more able to take down missiles. If your mech doesn't run an AMS system, who the hell cares? These 2 skills are mostly put in areas where you don't necessarily need to take them. Skeletal density gives you more internal structure hit points, which is nice. Then you got armor hardening, which gives you more armor points, which is also nice. But that's really all you get on the survival tree is shock absorbance, armor hardening, skeletal density, reinforced casing, and a couple instances of AMS overload. These are really nice skills to have, especially if you're in a light mech, because they're not durable to begin with. The mobility tree, I'll be perfectly honest, a lot of these are easy to overlook, like your torso yaw and your torso pitch and your torso speed. basically the most important ones, the ones that are really going to catch everybody's attention, are your speed tweaks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once you unlock all 5 of them, 2, 3, 5, you get a 7.5% boost to your mech speed. So it replicates the speed tweak skill on the old mech tree, the old skill system, right? Being perfectly frank, you're going to want to go down and grab these, the speed tweaks. You're really going to want to do it. And what you want to do is you want to do it in such a way that it's going to net you your most movement capacity. Now, now remember, torso pitch is your ability to elevate your torsos up and down. And torso yaw is your ability to turn your torsos from side to side relative to your legs. Torso speed just increases how fast your torsos turn and elevate and depress. Our torsos are depressed. But and one of the things I found is that sometimes you're actually going to want torso speed, especially on some of the mediums, a couple of the lights, because if you're going to end up, even some of the heavies, really, you're going to, if not torso speed, then at least torso yaw. Because if you're going to end up in close quarters combat with fast movers, those are important skills to have. Really important. I found that out the hard way while tinkering around with one of my Shadow Hawks, and I was basically getting outmaneuvered by a linebacker, and I had to go back to the mech lab, tweak a few things around, yada yada yada. But I ended up getting that Shadow Hawk pretty much where I wanted it, where it could come out, it could kick some butt, it could take some hits, and it can dogfight. And I got it pretty much where I wanted it, where it's a good match for my playstyle. And that's another thing, is once you skill a mech out and you take it into the testing grounds or you take it into a live match, don't be surprised if you're going to need to reskill it a little bit. That's going to happen. Then you have the jump jet tree here. Heat shielding reduces the amount of heat that your jump jets are going to build up. As you can see, the heat shielding is aligned straight down the middle. Vent calibration basically lets your jump jets fire for longer, and once again, it's a line going straight down. Vectoring increases the amount of forward thrust you get out of your jump jets. Once again, it's a line straight down. Lift speed, which is how much vertical lift you get out of your jump jets, is spread out such that there's 2 here on the sides of vectoring, 2 here on the sides of calibration, and 1 down here, which you have to go through vectoring to get. Now, if you're not interested in vectoring, but you want as much lift speed as you can possibly get, you're going to have to at least get 3 points of vectoring, here, here, and here. For example, let's say you want as much lift speed as possible. You have to go right here, and to here, to here, 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 here. There's those lift speeds. Now, at this point, you have to decide, before you get to this vent calibration, your fastest way to get to the rest of the lift speed is here, here, then here, then here, then here, and then here, here, and here. And this gives you your fastest route to all of your lift speed, which means your mech will take off like a freaking rocket. But that may not be what you want. On the other hand, this also grants you a nice mix of vectoring, 3 points of vectoring, and 2 points of vent calibration, and as well as 2 points of heat shielding. So it gives you, 3 points of shielding. I forgot that initial one. But it does give you a good mix of capabilities as well as a lot of, upward thrust when you fire those jump jets. Operations, you've got quick ignition, improved, which basically shortens the startup sequence on your Mac. I place almost no value on quick ignition because if you're, in my opinion, if you're doing it right at the beginning of the match, you're throwing your heat override on right then and there. So that way, when things get hairy and you start overheating, you can just manually lay off your triggers and just choose not to shoot, and you can still maneuver around. Because if you shut down and have a need to restart, you're boned. Period. Statement ends. You're boned. You're better off cooking yourself to death while trying to take the enemy down than having your mech effectively fall asleep in the middle of combat and get murdered. So I place almost no value on quick ignition whatsoever. I think it's a crappy skill. Improved gyros basically lessens the screen shake from ballistic impacts. That's a nice thing to have. It's not great, but it's a nice thing to have, especially when you find yourself on the receiving end to someone who's got like macroed autocannon 5s or 2s, who's just trying to like bounce your screen all over the place. Speed retention allows you to retain some of more of your base speed when you lose a leg. I don't place a lot of value on speed retention. I actually think improved gyros is better because unless you're in a light mech, people don't go for your legs too often. Too often. Heat containment is basically the old heat containment skills. It increases the maximum amount of heat that your mech can build up before it risks shutdown or internal damage. Not a problem. Hill climb, the old hill climb ability, which means that your mech can climb up how little or how much speed your mech loses as it moves up inclines and how big an incline it can go up. Nice to have, but yeah, it's like I look at it as improved gyros. It's a nice extra, but you don't really need. Your heat containment skills and your cool runs. Cool run basically is increases how fast your mech dissipates heat, and unfortunately, the cool runs are placed like here, 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 and here. So there's 5 cool runs. You get them all. That's a 10%. That's 10%, and that's really nice. It really is. But I mean, look at what you have to go through to get it. Let's say you start at quick ignition, you go to improved gyros. There's a heat containment. Now let's go shortest routes you could find to get your cool runs. Now here, right, let's go with the hill climb to this cool run. Here we go. Now at this point, you've got 2 hill climbs and 1 improved gyro. So let's go for another improved gyro, and there's a quick ignition that we don't really need, but we need it to get where we're going. And then we have a speed retention or an improved gyro. I'll go for the improved gyro. There's another quick ignition that we don't really want, but we have to get it to get to these cool runs. Now, this is the minimum basically the minimum you have to spend on this tree to get all of the cool runs. Now, the question becomes, I mean, it's just like, is this absolutely necessary? It depends upon your build. It depends upon what else you're doing with the mech. There's a lot of options, right? There's always options. I mean, for example, you could decide that you don't need, this improved. You don't need this improved gyros and whatnot. You don't need this right here. So you could, for example, turn that off and say, I'm willing to cut a corner there. You know, in order to have more active nodes elsewhere, because you're allowed a maximum of 91 active nodes. And there's 237 nodes per mech. So you have to be very selective about how you go about things. You got your sensor nodes. You got target information gathering, sensor range, Advanced zoom. I see advanced zoom under the new skill tree the same way as I saw the old advanced zoom module. It's cute, but it's crap. And I hate saying that, but that's just how I feel about it. It's crap. Um, and what boggles my mind is the people I see using advanced zoom at ranges of under 300 meters. It's like, holy crap, what are you doing? Oh my god. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, maybe if you have a dedicated sniper get build, like ERPPCs and Gauss rifles. Got it. I understand. That's one of the few times you're really gonna want advanced zoom. And that's if you're like, doing one of the classic two ERPPCs and a Gauss rifle, or two ERPPCs and two Gauss rifles, something like that, or two Gauss rifles and an ERPPC, some combination like that. If you're doing that, I can understand taking advanced zoom because you've got a dedicated sniper build. Anything else, you don't need it. If you've got like one Gauss rifle backed up by a crap ton of medium lasers, you don't need advanced zoom. Your medium lasers are your primary weapons. They are where all your damage is. You've got that one Gauss rifle for an armor hole puncher and long range firepower, but it's not the bulk of your weaponry, and by itself, it's not worth grabbing this skill. Period. Statement ends. People are welcome to disagree with me, and if it works out for you when you play it, more power to you. But me, I can't help but look at that and say it's generally just not worth it. You have to be, my opinion is you need a very specific build to take advantage of that. But anyways, yeah, target info gathering is nice. It speeds up the information that it speeds up the rate at which the information pertaining to your target's weapons loadouts and armor situation is populated. That's good information to have. Especially, what his armor situation looks like, because that lets you know where he's weak. You can look at him and say, oh, I could take that side torso off and he'll probably lose a lot of guns, and that side torso is ready to pop. That'll tell you that right there. You'll be like, at that point, you'll be dragging your crosshairs a little bit more to that side to try and nail that side torso so that you can decrease his capabilities and make him easier to kill in the long run. Whereas before, you might sit there and go and just throw around center mass. And it could be that like he has plenty of center torso armor left, and you're going to be sitting there trying to drill through a center torso that's still tough as nails while ignoring that nice, tender, juicy side torso. You know what I'm saying? Or you could look at him and say like, oh my god, I'm going to have to dogfight this guy. This is going to be nuts. And boop, he's got a weak leg. He's got a hideously weak leg. Bing! There goes his leg. Now I'm just going to run around behind him while he's horribly gimped and take his other leg out because he can barely keep up with me anymore. Target info gathering is really nice to have. Necessary? No. Nice to have? Abso-freaking-lutely. Target decay. This is your ability to maintain a missile lock on a target. Well, not just a missile. It's your ability to maintain a lock on a target lock, after the target moves out of your line of sight, or out of a friendly's line of sight you're piggybacking off of. And this will also, of course, plays into your missile locks. If you're playing a missile boat, this is an LRM boat, or even a streak boat, this is something to take, especially for LRMs. Streaks, debatable, but you're definitely going to want it for LRMs. The debate about how bad LRMs are, yada yada yada, is a debate for another time and place. I'm not getting into that here. Target retention is your ability to maintain target data on a target that has left your line of sight and moved behind you, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about it. I've never liked target retention. It struck me as kind of dumb in the first place, But yeah, most of these are radar deprivation. Now, here's the thing with radar deprivation is that there's only like 3 or 4 radar deprivations on the skill tree, and there's one there, one there. There's the 4th one. So that's 1, 2. There's 4. So there's There's number 3. There's number 5. There's 5 radar deprivations, and they're all way, way near the bottom. There's also a couple of advanced ECM skills here and here, which increases the protection bubble of your own ECM. If you don't have ECM, don't buy those. Just don't. There's also seismic sensor. There's one there and one there. Definitely nice to have. I don't know though. I mean, since this is right over here near target decay, it's really nice for an LRM boat to be able to pick up at least 1 point of seismic sensor. That way that you can just glance at your mini map while you're throwing missiles downrange, and just sit there and be aware of whether or not that someone's trying to sneak up on your tender juicy bumma. I mean, like, no. The last thing you want when you're in an LRM boat is just be sitting there throwing ordnance, and then suddenly have someone come over and start nibbling your bum. No one wants their bum nibbled. I should know. I've taken fast mechs and come around and nibbled the bums of LRM boats. Let me tell you, it's hilarious. Because a lot of these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, there's some good LRM boat players, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them will just sit there and ignore someone coming up and nibbling their bum. And it's like, oh my god, why are you doing this? You're making this so damn easy for me. I don't know. Then, of course, you have your auxiliary skill tree. You start off, every mech starts off with 1 consumable slot. You can buy more. So there's the first one. And there's the second. There's the third. And there's the fourth. You can get up to 5 consumable slots. And if you work the skill tree right, you can get up to 2 UAVs, 2 strikes, whether they be artillery or airstrike. It doesn't matter. They're both strikes. You can get up to 2 strikes, and you can get up to 2 cool shots. Now, obviously, with only 5 slots, you can't have doubles of everything. One of them is gonna have to be a single. Honestly, I really hope they give us more consumables in the future. We've been asking for that one for a while, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, that's an overview of what you're going to find in the skill tree. Another thing, of course, tucked in with all of this stuff to augment your UAVs and your strikes and your cool shots, you will also find enhanced narc. Enhanced narc. I have no idea why they put this here. Honestly, I think it belongs like in operations, and they put it in auxiliary, which is almost completely consumables. I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I had answers on that one. So yeah, so let's look at this mech's loadout again. It's an AC-20 with 3 jump jets and 4 medium lasers with a 325 standard engine. Which, I'll be perfectly frank, when the timeline jump occurs, I am swapping the ferro fibrous armor to light ferro and swapping the 325 out for like a light engine. I'm going to have to move some things around, but I'm not too worried about that. And that AC-20 may or may not turn into an Ultra 20. And with the freed up tonnage, these medium lasers may turn into pulse. They may turn into extended range. I might just get a large laser. I might maybe pop in a light PPC somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, that all remains to be seen. So double check the weapons loadout before I go in and start playing with skills. Right. So skills. I'm going to start off with the firepower tree at this point. Now, I can ignore the missiles. Just utterly ignore missiles. But what I do want is I want those laser-based skills. Now the question becomes is, do I want to go from here down to one of these 2 ranges and then to this range 5 and then this cooldown and down to here, or do I want to bank further out to the side so I can grab this velocity for my autocannon? because that is a missile skill that we're also that is a skill that benefits both missiles, which you find on this side of the tree, and ballistics. And that's a tough decision to make. But but let's say we go out here, we take that and that and that, and we go down. There's that, and then we move off to the side. We get this laser duration, right? And then we move off to the side and get this laser duration. Then we move down to here and get that laser duration. I just chose to pick up that velocity instead of that range. That was a choice I made. Now, as you can see, this is pretty much the minimum you need to do. Well, not quite the minimum. I mean, I could have taken this range 5 right here instead of this range 4 and this velocity. The minimum you need to do to get all of your laser skills is this. This is your absolute minimum. You need to spend 18 skill nodes to get your minimum beam duration on lasers. This is your minimum. This is what it looks like. If you're in a laser boat mech, I mean pure laser boat, this is your minimum. Well, actually, your minimum with a pure laser boat is going to be taking that range and not this velocity. So it's going to look a little different. But, you know, to each their own, right? Right. So let me turn this velocity back on because it's more relevant to the specific build I'm working with. And that's one of the things to keep in mind. And one of the things I have noted is that heat gens are far, far easier to snap up than cool runs. So any heat gens that you don't have to go too far out of your way for, snap them up. Now you might know I went over here and I decided I was going to grab this cooldown and this cooldown on my way to this heat gen and this heat gen, and then this velocity, and then another heat gen, right? Now, it would have been a shorter route if I took the missile explosive skill instead of this cooldown and this cooldown. It would have been a much shorter route. But the cooldown skills are more relevant, and I wanted to take the longer route to get some relevant skills. I mean, yeah, if you're really tight on skill points and you want to skip these two cooldowns, you can absolutely take the high explosive skill and delete those, and you save one skill node that you can attribute, that you can put somewhere else. And that is an option to keep in mind as I continue to skill out the work with what skills I want. Now, mind you, as you're skilling up a mech from scratch that you've never used before, because I've got legacy skill points and all this other crap that I can use with this, which is nice. But as you're skilling up the mech, try to think about where you want to go with it, what you want to do with it. I'll be perfectly honest. The drawback to doing things like this all in one go, as I'm doing, is that it requires me to go in and tinker with it in live matches to see how it performs, and you know how the changes I want to make, etc., etc., etc. Now, as something with a standard engine, this is a pretty tough mech. But I still want, so I'm going to come back to the survival tree, actually. What I want to do is I want to go into the mobility tree because I want those speed tweaks, damn it, because this is a very close range mech, and I want the capacity to get it where it needs to be, which is why it has a 325 engine. The original build mounts at a 300, and it just was too slow. It got left behind in more mobile battles. It had trouble getting into proper engagement range, and it mounted like 2 large lasers and 2 medium lasers. I ended up cutting the 2 large lasers down to mediums to clear out the tonnage for that 325 engine. Because, seriously, I mean, when you can't bring your weapons to bear, it doesn't matter if you have big guns or not. A big gun that can't engage is a useless gun. But let me go with a kinetic burst. I'm tempted to grab this hard break, but I actually want to grab the torso yaw because side-to-side movement in a mech that's very short-ranged focused is important. And then we get another kinetic burst. And I'm going to pass on this hard break to go for this torso yaw. And this torso yaw. And then this torso speed. This pitch. This hard break. This anchor turn. This pitch. And here's our first speed tweak. Torso speed, speed tweak, speed tweak. Now, the next thing I need to do is decide how I'm going to go about getting these last two speed tweaks because I totally want them. And the fastest way for me to do that is to go from this torso yaw down this way. So there's a pitch, there's another pitch, there's a hard break. Do I want a torso speed or an anchor turn? I want another anchor turn because I passed up anchor turns earlier to get torso speeds. And there's a pitch, and there's speed tweak, anchor turn, blah, blah. There we go. Now there's two torso speeds right there within easy grasp. I might actually want to grab one of those instead. I've passed up kinetic bursts. I've passed up hard breaks. I do have at least a couple of hard breaks in there. I've got like a couple of torso speeds. Once again, this is kind of like a minimum or close to a minimum. Technically, I don't need this torso speed right here. I could totally take that out and save. I could. And this is actually like minimum to get all of one of the minimal routes to get all of the speed tweaks. There's a couple of minimum routes you could change. You could basically mirror from here up can be mirrored to the other side. It really depends upon what's important to you. Like I took these yaws instead of like two hard breaks and a kinetic burst. That was a decision I made. I could easily get, this hard break and this kinetic burst without too big of a deal if I wanted to. I mean, it's not a big deal. I could get them if I need them. But like once again, jump jets. I got 3 jump jets. It's not bad. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to want a mix of what's available to me. I don't want to like go too nuts with it, but let's say I go for some heat shielding, vectoring, and lift speed, and event calibration. Another vectoring, another lift speed, and another vent calibration. So what this does is it gives me 1 heat shielding, 2 calibrations, 2 vectorings, 2 lift speed, and this should hopefully be enough for, decent performance. Now I look over here to the right, I'm at 58 out of 91 nodes. Operations. I've actually found I can honestly skip this tree if I have enough, because getting down to the really good stuff, your cool runs, costs a lot of skill points. I mean, 2% heat dissipation as opposed to going over here to the firepower tree and grabbing negative 0.75% heat gen. You're generally, 2% extra cooling versus 0.75% knocked off your heat gen. Given that you can alpha most mechs at least twice, fire everything at least twice before you're pushing your red line, the neg heat gen will probably work out better for you in the long run because you fire the weapons twice. That heat gen is already at you're already down 1.5%, right? Which is pretty close. And the heat gens are so much easier to pick up. I mean, look, if I want to grab more heat gens. Oh, look, there's one right there. I can grab this one. I can look around. I can say, where are there other heat gen drops, you know? Where are there heat gen drops that I can grab real quick? It's like, okay, ooh, there's one, and unfortunately, I grabbed a lot of the easy ones already. But, are there any heat gens over here? Yeah, there's one here, and one here, and one here. Now, obviously, these are a ways away. What about over this way? How many are over here? There's one right here, which is 3 away. 3 away. I go over this side. And the next heat gen I can get over on this side right here is what? 1, 2, 3, 4 away. But then there's another one right next to it. So for 5 skill points over here, I can get, 2 heat gens of neg 1.5 between the two of them. And when you fire your weapons twice, that's effectively a 3% discount on generated heat. That builds and then compare that to operations. What do you have to get your first cool run? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get to your first cool run. 6. That's a lot. And which is why I overall say the operations tree. Yeah, I'm not thrilled by it. I mean, granted, in the process, you're also getting 2 heat containments, which, don't get me wrong, are really nice to have. But my opinion at this point is that you're better off hunting down those heat gens. Let me turn that one back off because I'm not 100% certain on that one yet, right? You're better off getting those heat gens than you are. You're better off getting those heat gens that are really fast and easy to pick up without going too far out of your way than going into your operations and just grabbing those cool runs. I mean, after you've gotten all the low hanging fruit for heat gen in the firepower tree, and if you have a lot more nodes to use, by all means, go after those cool runs. Go after them like a mean mofo, but don't prioritize them, in my opinion. Now, maybe some builds will work better with the cool runs, or maybe I'll be in long run proven wrong. I don't know, but this is my thinking. Maybe my thinking's a little screwed up. I don't know. I'll be honest, I have not run the numbers. I really haven't. But this is my thinking. So if someone runs the numbers and wants to post a link to saying, dude, I ran the numbers, here's where you can find them. I understand why you thought this, blah 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 blah, but here's the numbers and they don't bear you out. And if you want to say that and post the link, I will totally apologize and say, dude, yep, you were right. Because numbers don't lie. Sensors. Yay, sensors. Like I said before, a lot of things on the sensor tree aren't particularly relevant. But let's say you want to just go in and say, fuck you all, I want at least a little bit of radar depth and seismic. Totally understandable. So let's target info. Do I want target decay or do I want sensor? I totally want that sensor range, and then I'll cross over to this side because I don't care about getting another target decay over here just to get to things like seismic sensor or whatever. I don't know. I don't need more access to it. There's that. And there's a sensor range. And there. The target info gathering. And there's a seismic sensor. Now, if I need to try and save points later, if I find out that I need the points, I need the nodes later, I want to grab this radar deprivation. That way, if I need to shut stuff down in order to conserve nodes for other uses, I can just go right over here to this sensor range and say bloop, and there we go. I still have my radar dep up here. Because if I went for that radar dep instead of this one, then if I want to save skill points, I could sit here and say save active nodes. I could turn that off, but if I still want radar dep, I'd be turning this one back. I'd have to turn that one on, and that would cost me at least one more skill point because I'd have to unlock a previously locked node. Now, think ahead. Think ahead a little bit, and you'll be surprised, what you can do. Auxiliary, I mean, I am going to want at least a UAV and a cool shot on this thing because UAVs are great and cool shots are really nice to have. So there's +1, and there's a UAV duration, and there's an enhanced cool shot. And that's really all I need. Now, here's the fun part. Here's where things get interesting. I'm only sitting at 70 out of 91 nodes. Now, remember how I talked about the survival tree earlier, how we'll get back to it? We're back to it. Let's see what we can do with this. AMS overload. No AMS on this mech. Screw that. So there's boop, boop, boop. Here we go. Now, here's where decisions start to get interesting. Now, I can go with reinforced casing on either side. Looking at what the differences are between either side is how fast access you get to armor hardening or skeletal density. Because right over here you've got a skeletal density and then reinforced casing. And over here you've got an armor hardening and then a skeletal density right below it. The question is, which side do you think is overall going to be more powerful for you? On the other hand, if you go down this side, you've got two skeletal densities right in the middle that you can snap up going down if you don't want to grab stuff off to the sides. This is all totally up to you. My thoughts at this point is I'm going to go this way and get this armor hardening and this skeletal density and more armor hardening. And this reinforced casing. And I mean, keep in mind, I'm at 78 out of 91. I could throw so many nodes into here. Just make this mech tough as freaking nails. There's a skeletal density. There's an armor hardening. Now, at this point, I could go down to here and get 2 armor hardenings real quick off of this 1 shock absorbance, which is kind of questionable. And that's probably the fastest way to get more armor. Well, the most efficient, of course, would be to grab this one. But, you know what? No, let's grab this one. And yoink, yoink, yoink. I mean, bam, I've just got some nice armor hardening here. And if you look at the numbers off to the side, let me see here. I got 5.25% cooldown, 6.75% reduced heat buildup, plus 7% range, plus looks like 6% velocity, plus 9% armor bonus, 9% structure bonus, neg 20% fall damage, plus 3.5% torso yaw speed, plus 6% torso yaw angle, plus 10% torso pitch angle, mech stop speed plus 7.5, initial thrust of jump jets plus 6%, forward thrust of jump jets plus 50%, jump jet burn time plus 6%, I want to say that is. Sensor range plus 21%, target info gathering 28%, radar depth 20%, seismic sensor range plus 100, extra consumable slots 1, UAV duration plus 10, cool shot plus 25% efficiency, laser duration neg 15%, XL and deceleration are at 7%, Turn rate's at 15%. Chance of receiving crits, -3. Now, and once again, I've got 7 slots unused. Looking at my auxiliary, do I need anything here? No, this is just fine. Looking at my sensors are just fine. Operations, I don't need any of this crap. I really don't. And I hate saying that. I really do. Jump jets, I have plenty of skill on jump jets. That should be fine. Mobility. Looks good for now. Survival is what I'm working on next. And going back over to firepower, is there anything here I really want to grab that's within easy reach? Yeah, I'll grab this heat gen because it's an easy reach. Cooldown, my weapons will cycle a little bit faster. I'll grab that. It's an easy reach. I can go over here and grab this range, this cooldown, that cooldown, this heat gen. Look around. Is there it would be nice if I could grab that heat gen as well. So now I'm sitting here thinking to myself, where is there a node that I can turn off? Because I'm at my max. I'm at 91. Where is there a node that I can turn off that I don't really need to grab that heat gen, right? Now, looking at this, everything I've got in this in this tree is looking pretty good where it is. So at this point, I look over at the survival tree. Do I have anything here I can stand to get rid of? Probably not. Let's go over here to mobility. I pretty much like everything I've got here, but I could turn off one of. No, I could not turn off one of these torso pitches. I could not. I could turn off one of the speed tweaks, but I don't want to. You know, speed tweaks 1 and 2, 1, 2. I could turn either of those off. I don't want to. Jump jet skills. I could turn off one of these lift speeds or this vent calibration if I wanted to. Operations, I have nothing there. Sensors. I could turn off this radar depth. I could turn off this seismic. Auxiliary. I could turn off the enhanced cool shot if I wanted to. Honestly, I could turn off the UAV duration as well. I could turn both of those off, get 2 skill points back. Well, 2 nodes back. Keep in mind, once you spend your skill points, they're spent. They're gone. You're not getting them back. But the node is still unlocked. You can reactivate a deactivated node for 400 XP. So that's not a big deal. I mean, 400 is next to nothing. I mean, even a crap game should get you enough XP to reactivate 1 or 2 deactivated nodes. But so I turn that off and go back over to firepower, and let's turn that heat gen on. Did I say there was something else I could grab? I could say screw the extra UAV duration and get something else. I could go to firepower and get range or velocity. Velocity only helps the autocannon. Don't get me wrong, the autocannon as your big bruiser gun is really nice to have velocity on. Really is. But I could get this range, this velocity, this range. And of course, if I take the ones further down, if I take this range, it opens up another range. If I take this velocity, it opens up another cooldown. Just in case I want to, do tweaks in that direction. Once again, thinking forward. Because if I grab one of these 2, it doesn't open up any new possibilities for me. Conversely, if I want to shut them down, they don't block off access to other stuff. For example, if I end up going further down, and I take like this velocity and this cooldown, and I decide I don't need the velocity, if I turn it off, I lose the cooldown. That's cool. The same with that range as well. But is there another cooldown nearby? Anywhere? One right there if I need it, right? But this is looking pretty good so far. It really is. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. If I decide that this mech is getting too badly beat up, I could go in and I would honestly start clipping stuff out of the sensor tree. Like, my first thought would be if I need the durability, the first thing I'd do is I'd turn this off to take these 3 skill nodes out, which would free up 3 possible active nodes and go into survival. And, well, what would I do with that? Well, hmm, there's a reinforced casing and a hardened armor. That's 2. And who knows what I could do with the 3rd. Or, if I wanted to, and this is a big thing, if I wanted to, I could go nutty and go over to this side, and I could say, you know what, let's grab the AMS2, even though it does me no good, and then grab these 2 skeletal densities. I could do that. Once again, options. Options out the wazoo. Now, I've turned on 91 nodes. Well, they're not definitely on, but I've allocated 91 points. Now, the thing is I need to get the skill points. This little lovely little button up here, add skill points. Oh, and there's a view ledger button. Will you proper? There we go. This is my refund ledger from when the new skill system was put into place. As you can see, I picked up a lot of stuff. Refunds from consumables was like over 20 million C-bills. 28 million C-bills actually. Refund from modules was over 108 million C-bills. I got a lot of stuff out of that. But I'm not too worried about that because what's really, you don't need the point by point breakdown. It's nice to have, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessary. What is necessary right now is adding skill points. Choose method. Use available skill points, purchase skill points. I have GSP, that's general skill points, which, were picked up. They're a legacy item. And the historic skill points, that's also a legacy item. Or I could purchase skill points using XP, GXP. Those are still around. I could use historical XP because there's historical XP on the mech chassis from beforehand. Once again, I'm going to get back to that historical XP for just a moment, in a little bit. And C-bills. I got a bunch of C-bills right now. What I want to do is I'm going to use available skill points, and I'm going to use my historic skill points. Boom. I had the mech mastered before the changeover, so they gave me a full 91. Okay. Yep. Migrating skill points. There we go. I've got 91 skill points. Apply changes. Okay. Is good. What was I saying? My auxiliary skills, consumable slot, UAV duration. So go to my loadout. Go to my modules. And there's a cool shot and a UAV. And let me turn both of those onto auto reload, auto refill after matches. It's going to cost me 40,000 because I didn't have one of those in stock, yada, yada, whatever. So there's the mech, right? Before I get too sidetracked, one of the things I do want to go do is select mech, go to a mech that I have more than one of, like Battlemaster. I have a pair of Battlemaster 1S. I've got Hilda right here, who is 4 medium lasers and 4 long-range missile launchers, a pair of 10s and a pair of 15s. And I've got Rocket Show, which is 4 medium lasers and 4 SRM-6s. Now, you might look at this and say, okay, look at this. Hilda is all mastered out. She's got all of her freaking nodes. Warning, firing more than 2 LRMs, yada, yada, yada. Who cares? You look at her skills. She's got a bunch of active slots. All the active slots. Not really all of them, but whatever. And of course, because of what she is, I've got a lot of weapon slots active. I focused on missile-based skills a lot and heat gen skills. You might notice I totally didn't even bother with the laser skills because her lasers aren't what's important on her. I've totally focused almost entirely on the missiles. Are there a couple of skills here that aren't really needed? Yes, there are. Like this velocity, technically don't need that velocity. Technically don't need any of these 4 down here, though they're nice to have. 3 heat gens and a cooldown. Technically, you don't need a lot of stuff down this way, but whatever. They're just really nice to have. Survival skill tree. I bought a handful of things. I got, reinforced casing, shock absorbance, skeletal density, reinforced casing again, armor hardening. That's fine. Mobility. I took a bunch of mobility skills. Pretty much the minimum necessary, in my opinion. Well, that's not true. I mean, I could eliminate 1, 2, 3, these 4, and grab these 2, and that would actually save me some. So that's something for me to think about in the future. Jump jets, battle masters don't have jump jets, not relevant. Operations, I ended up taking a bunch of stuff under operations so I could get those cool runs. That was before I considered that heat gens are more efficient. But on the other hand, looking back over her firepower tree, where are there heat gens that are easy to get? I took all of that low-hanging fruit that I could get my grubby paws on. All of the other heat gens are buried so deep. Like, where are the other heat? Where are the remaining heat gens? Here and here. There's 2 heat gens way down here. And another one down here. And in order to get just to those 2, I would need what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points just to get it to those 2 heat gens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That puts me 1 away from that cool run, but also gets me 2 heat containments. I don't know. I'm thinking about rearranging this a little bit actually. Even as right now as I'm doing this, right? Sensors, I totally wanted those target decays. Screw you all, I wanted those target decays. Those were really important. Auxiliary, all I grabbed was enough for a 1 extra consumable slot. That's all I really needed. But, okay. You might say, why you show me all of this? And that's because if I go to Select Mech, go to my other Battlemaster 1S, Rocket Show, loadout, skills, here we go, the skills. Let's say I just give her a consumable slot. There you go, I need a skill point. Add skill points. Use available. I have available skill points because, I had 2 mastered Battle Master 1S, so I have legacy skill points for both of them. However, let's say I didn't. Let's say I bought another one. I could still use the historic skill points. Or the historic XP to buy. I could use the historic XP to buy skill points if I wanted to. Let's say I skill this one out and I buy a 3rd Battle Master 1S, just as an example. I could still use the historic skill points, even though I didn't have that Battle Master 1S. Just as I could still use the historic skill points. I mean, I could use either one. But yeah. And once again, the skill point cost. Because there's no mech experience. Hilda has mech experience on her. Rocket Show doesn't. Why? Because I've used Hilda since the skill snooze skill system came in, but I haven't used Rocket Show. Now I know I've rambled a lot during this, but I can go over here and oh look, there's historic XP. Okay, one skill point will cost you 800 XP, 45,000 C-bills. You can easily, even on a bad match, you can get enough XP and C-bills for 2 skill nodes, even on a bad match. Cancel. Let's back out of this. Loadout change, if you change, yada, yada, yada. Now let's go back, select Mech. Now let's look at how that Marauder we skilled out. Bam. Okay, so let's take a look at how this Marauder performs in the testing grounds. I'm not going to go into a live match with it just yet. I'll save that for another day. Let's go into the testing grounds. I prefer Canyon Network. It's a heat-neutral map. And I know where all the target mechs are.
Target acquired. Target destroyed.
Now, looking at my ranges,
Target
as you can see, the
acquired.
medium lasers and the AC-20 have the same range. And they're at almost 300 meters for optimum.
Fuel at 25%. Fuel at 0%.
Get up the
Fuel
damn
at
rise!
25%. Target destroyed. New target acquired.
But yeah, and of course, you know, when it comes to things like the AC-20, you don't want to use it out of optimum range too frequently because you have a limited number of shells.
Fuel at 25%. Fuel at 0%. Fuel at 25%. Target destroyed.
But yeah, as you can see, I mean, it's just like, I just took out 3 mechs. Now, granted, they're target mechs. This doesn't tell you how the mech's gonna do in a dogfight. It really doesn't. For that, you really need live experience. But it moves at a good clip, doing 75.5. The heat dispersal so far seems pretty good. I've got a cool shot just in case. I've got a UAV, which is really good for drawing attention, friendly attention, to your location. It's faster than using the command wheel.
Need assistance?
Eh.
Target acquired.
And that was nice. I jigged my hand a little bit when I fired the AC-20 and just roasted
Target
most of his
destroyed.
arm. That's
New
okay.
target acquired.
Oh, really? The leg? Come on.
Target destroyed. New target acquired.
There we go.
Heat level critical.
Now, I could go for headshots on these target mechs, but I don't
Critical.
want to because it doesn't give you a good idea of your ammo usage or your heat usage because you can't really count on
Target
headshots.
acquired.
It just can't. But the idea is you want to, I go through the testing grounds. I want to get like a good idea of how long it takes me to plow through these mechs, and if I have enough ammo to reliably do it.
Heat level critical. Heat level critical. Target destroyed. New target acquired. Heat level critical. Override engaged. Heat level critical. Heat level critical. Target destroyed.
And there we go. And it took me a little under 5 minutes to get all those out. But, yeah.
Heat level critical.
One thing you might note, and this is third-person view, as you can see. This is accessed with the function 3 key. I don't like to use third-person. I really don't. Feels weird. But one interesting thing you noticed is the jump jets. I get all the sound effects and whatnot when I hit that, when I start jumping. But if I go into back to first person, when I hit the spacebar to jump right, now. Okay, that's weird. Apparently it's mostly in live matches, I guess. I don't know. But there seems to be an occasional glitch right now where the jump jet sound effect is delayed? I don't know.
Fuel at 25%.
So anyways, there's the new skill tree and a run through the testing grounds. And it is what it is, and hopefully I'll have this like edited up, a little bit of editing to clean it up, and I'll have this up shortly. We'll see. So thanks everybody for watching. Those not too familiar with me, my name is Esif, and I live stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/ESCEF. I'm also a member of the Baggers. We're not the most active unit in the game by any stretch of the imagination, the barely adequate gamers, but we're always willing to take new recruits. We're overall a friendly bunch of guys. We're mostly pretty casual. We do care about our builds being efficient at what they do, but we're still pretty casual. So yeah, if you ever want to hang out, by all means, I live stream from 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning at Eastern Standard Time. That's GMT -5. And yeah, so in the meantime, fellas, be good, stay safe, kill nobody I wouldn't. Happy gaming, and I'll catch you whenever the hell the next time I catch you is. Later, fellas.